It's NFL Daily time. Pack show today as we go over the first team All-Pros from this season, led by Pats quarterback Tom Brady. Rams defensive tackle Aaron Donald makes the list for the second year in a row as the league's premier defensive lineman. Antonio Brown was the only unanimous selection onto the first team, despite missing the last few games of the season. Jalen Ramsey made the list as one of the top corners in all of football in just his second year in the league. And don't look now, but the weapon, Johnny Hekker, was named the best punter in the NFL for the second year running. Couple coaching rumors this show as well. Could Matt Patricia be headed to New York? Tom and Harris have all the latest NFL rumors. And we finish off our show today by ranking all the QBs left in the playoffs. Who would you rather have to start a playoff game? Case Keenum, or would you rather have Matt Ryan? Same question for a few veteran quarterbacks as well. Would you rather have Drew Bree of the New Orleans Saints, or maybe Big Ben of the Pittsburgh Steelers? We have a loaded NFL Daily today. Let's get it going. Hit it.
Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
Tom, let's go into some rumors before we start the show. Matt Patricia is going to be the Giants head coach. It's the wrong Patriots coordinator.
Look, the New York Daily News says that all signs pointed to Matt Patricia, even though in that article they listed 0 of the signs, so we're giving it 2 downy heads. Look, it's a rumor that's out there. I don't know how feasible this one actually is. We'll talk more about this later on in the show.
Let's move into rumor number 2. How about Nick Saban, quote unquote, covets the Giants job?
This comes from Bruce Arians himself, by the way. I really don't buy this whatsoever, though. 1 downy head.
Bill Belichick and Nick Saban in 1 week. Where's Vince Lombardi and John Madden? It's time. Number 3 on our rumor list. The Panthers are going to hire Norv Turner.
So if you looked at Yahoo this week or today, you saw a headline that said Panthers hired Norv Turner. It is completely fake news. We'll tell you why later on in the show.
Just like Yahoo. Let's go to number 4. Steve Sarkisian maybe to the Seahawks?
Look, Jason LaConforna said he would be stunned if it didn't happen, and then today Dan Quinn comes out and says there's 0 chance it happens. We're giving it just 1 downy head. There's a small kernel of truth to it, but don't expect this one to happen.
It's just Jason LaConforna for you. Let's go to number 5. Rich Gannon was originally rumored to be joining the Oakland Raiders as their quarterback's coach. Tom, doubt has been laid down on this.
It's not just doubt. It's just not going to happen. And we're giving this one 4 downy heads. It is fact news. You know that's right, Harris, because he straight up said today.
Yeah, he did.
He's not going. 4 downy heads. It's a fact.
Number 6, John Harbaugh on the hot seat. This is an interesting one, Tom. I never would have think to seeing this, but not great the past couple years.
This is not the first time I've heard this. This particular one comes from Jason LaConforna, so I'm giving it 2 downy heads. The people are talking because I've heard it before, but I would be very surprised if the Ravens did this because I would love for him to go coach another team like the Cowboys. He'd be a fantastic fit.
People are definitely talking. That is your little rumors roundup. We'll have more rumors and a little bit more thought out later in the show. That is Tom Downey. I'm Harris Rubenstein. Tom, we got a packed NFL Daily today.
Yes, we do.
We're going to do some NFL rumors, like I said. We're also going to go through the NFL AP All-Pros, and then we're going to rank the NFL quarterbacks left in the playoffs. Spoiler alert, Blake Bortles is last. Yes. Last. Not even close to anywhere except last.
We all saw him play against the Bills.
I can't believe Blake Bortles has a playoff win. I literally can't do it. But do you know what else I can't believe, Tom?
What?
How amazing the ticket prices are on the Game Time app. Up to 60% off ticket prices right up to Game Time. They actually get less expensive as you get closer. Go to chatsports.com/tickets to get the app today. You can put it in your little sports folder. It's the only ticketing app you'll ever need.
You need 2 apps in that sports folder. Chat Sports app and the Game Time app.
The Game Time app. The best ticketing app you will find anywhere on either app store, no matter what phone or device you are using. Use the Game Time app today. Tom, let's get into some AP All-Pros. I think that this year's list was pretty good. I think they did the guys justice. So let's start on offense. And at quarterback, we do have Tom Brady, and then running back, we have Todd Gurley. Moving on after that, Le'Veon Bell, the flex. Kind of funny, he got flexed out of the running back position.
He was the first team offense flex and the second team offense running back. Normally, the first team, that's the only thing that really matters, I think, in the end. But and I'm like, how do you get to be 2? That didn't really seem fair. So Antonio Brown, by the way, was a unanimous AP All-American, or AP All-Pro, excuse me. Wrong sport.
Too much college.
Wrong level. Hey, I was in Atlanta.
Hey, Tom Daddy coming back from Atlanta.
I'm still a little bit sleepy, so excuse me there. It was no surprise for Antonio Brown. DeAndre Hopkins made a ton of sense as well. And look, there's a reason that three of those five people up there are the front runners, so to speak, to be the MVP.
And it's also interesting, you know, the small side note, 4 of the 5 on that list are AFC players. Obviously later you'll see that the NFC dominates one of the parts of our list, but 4 of the 5 starting on the offense in the AFC. Let's go to the offensive line, because this is the list I actually wanted to talk to you the most about. I know people out there don't care about offensive line as much as we do.
I care about the offensive line.
Is David DeCastro now physically the best offensive lineman in football? Has he taken the moniker? This is a couple years in a row now of him just being absolutely insane.
You know, that's a really good question, and it's always tough for me to say, oh, a guard is the best lineman in football. I think he's a fantastic guard, and I think he's definitely one of the best ones in the NFL, but Andrew Norwell had a great year, and I think it's a little bit deceptive because a guy like Tyron Smith was banged up, Trent Williams was banged up as well. So he is definitely one of the best ones, but I don't know in the end if he's actually the best offensive lineman in the NFL. And I will mention a snub here for you right now. I am really surprised that David Bakhtiari didn't get All-Pro. He was fantastic this year. Now, yeah, he did miss 4 games earlier in the year, but I think Bakhtiari has emerged as one of the best linemen in all of the NFL. He was fantastic.
I don't want to say that outside of DeAndre Hopkins, this list kind of filtered towards playoff teams, but besides DeAndre Hopkins, the list very much filtered.
That's also what you typically see.
It is.
Because playoff teams have the best, the best players.
Them probably is, quote unquote, the reason. Another guy on there before we move on to the defense, Jason Kelce there at center. Fantastic player, one of the best centers in football. Surprised that no Alex Mack on this year's list. He has been on the list in years past.
I thought Kelce was very well deserving of this award, and frankly, I kind of thought the 2 best guards this year were both in the NFC East.
Yep.
Jason Kelce and Travis Frederick.
Travis Frederick as well, the Dallas Cowboys. Let's get on to defense, because the defensive, I love the defensive line that we're bringing up here, because if you ask me, the defensive line this year, a play around the NFL, might have been the best that we have seen in years. Calais Campbell was amazing. Cameron Jordan was amazing. Aaron Donald and Cameron Hayward were both incredible, but that takes away from the fact also Fletcher Cox had an amazing year. Kawan Short, as usual with the Panthers, had an amazing year. Jarrell Casey, as always. Gerard McCoy as well. Just an amazing defensive line generation we're in right now.
And I think one just quick note here, you see DT listed for Cam Hayward, even though look, I did this intentionally because they listed him as more or less pass rushers and interior defensive linemen, and I kind of thought if we put up IDL, no one really knows what we're talking about. So they went with DT just to keep it simpler. Calais Campbell and Aaron Donald were, I think, probably 2 of the easiest options on there. Aaron Donald, year in and year out, is going to be, at the very least, a first or second team All-Pro guy. He is incredible.
He, in my opinion, has to be. I think he's the best defensive player in football right now. The past 2 years, he's just been absolutely immense. Let's get into our linebacker core here. I think this might have been the easiest group to have chosen from the All-Pros this year. Bobby Wagner put up to about like week 10 of the NFL was maybe the best player on the was the best player on the Seahawks. Maybe was the defensive player of the year.
I agree.
Luke Kuechly, good comeback season for him, obviously coming off of that concussion from last year. And then Chandler Jones led the NFL in sacks this year. An amazing linebacker core.
I think Kuechly and Wagner are the 2 easy ones. I think you actually could have made an argument. Maybe you put Chandler Jones as a true edge guy.
Yeah, I didn't. That's kind of.
The voters felt differently. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with him getting in the spot at linebacker. He was incredible this year. Those are 3 dynamite players.
Interesting name that we did not see on here was Tank Lawrence from the Cowboys, who had easily the best season of his career.
Yeah, he definitely did, and I was maybe a bit surprised Cam Jordan made the list, but I thought with the way Campbell played, those 2 are very quality options. The benefit was there were a lot of really good edge rushers. I mean, Khalil Mack, Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa, Brandon Graham were all incredible. They can't all fit.
By the way, the NFC has kind of dominated the defensive side of the ball, and you're going to see that continue when we get into the secondary. Let's get into that. Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Rhodes, Kevin Byard, Harrison Smith, and then Darius Slay. Couple notes on this list. A, Jalen Ramsey making first-team All-Pro in his second year in the NFL is just crazy to me. They said it on the broadcast.
He's the best corner in the NFL.
That's kind of what they said, like very close to, if not already, the best corner in the NFL. Xavier Rhodes been consistent. Harrison Smith has stripped the title away from Eric Weddle for being the safety of the generation. This dude, now 3 years in a row, has been quietly, he didn't even make a Pro Bowl this year, and not that the Pro Bowl really matters, but amazing.
You mentioned the Pro Bowl. There were 7 people here, 7 players who were first-team All-Pro despite not getting into the original Pro Bowl list. Now, once everyone drops out because no one wants to play, they'll end up getting invited. But we mentioned Cam Hayward, how good he was. Jason Kelsey was not a Pro Bowl nominee. Same with Andrew Whitworth and Andrew Norwell on the offensive line. And then both safeties, Harrison and Kevin, were not Pro Bowlers, which is why the Pro Bowl means nothing, because those were the two best safeties in the NFL this year. And Kevin had 8 picks.
Yeah,
he was incredible. Harrison Smith plays everywhere from Minnesota. Those were very easy selections at safety. I don't know why they didn't get the Pro Bowl in the first place.
And then the last one, Darius Slay. I like that they have another defensive back position just in case they need to throw in a second guy. He was amazing this year.
It's a little weird.
It's a little weird,
but it also makes sense because teams just play nickel now. Because that's just what they do. So. And Slay was fantastic this year. A lot of good corners this year in the NFL, and a lot of very young corners as well.
No Marshawn Lattimore on that list. I think that he probably would have been favored over the last couple of weeks, but I think Xavier Rhodes kind of stripped it away from the last few weeks.
Marshawn Lattimore was so good this year, and maybe the one injury that Marshawn basically missed 3 weeks for kind of hurt him a little bit at the end.
Let's move into special teams, and Tom, I love this. Ram, Zerline, Hecker, and Cooper. The weapon, Johnny Hecker, second year in a row is the best punter in football, because he is.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense to see the two Rams guys there, Zerline and Hecker. Zerline had an incredible year before he got hurt, and you can kind of see the difference between him and Sam Ficken, which I think did play a factor.
I think so.
Kind of slowed down switch. Farrell Cooper did not have a good playoff game, had some fumbles, but he was great all year. Agnew also a first-year player, and then Buda Baker got the nominee as the All-Pro Special Teams gunner, more or less, is what that
interesting, because Matthew Slater got the Special Teams one for the Pro Bowl, but again, like we have mentioned multiple times on this program, the Pro Bowl means nothing. Tom, who do you think was the biggest All-Pro snub this year?
You know, there are a couple different guys. I do want to quickly shout out my boy Keenan Allen, because he was great this year. Didn't even make second-team All-Pro, which I thought was really weird. In the end, I am going with David Bakhtiari. I thought he was incredible week in and week out for the Green Bay Packers. He has emerged as one of the best tackles in the NFL. I thought he should have been a first-team All-Pro this year, but overall, I thought the voters did a pretty good job on these All-Pro lists.
For me, I think the biggest snub for me, I think it's Marshawn Lattimore. I understand that Xavier Rhodes is a great corner. He had a great year, but I mean, we had 2 iconic corners in the NFL this year, and it was Jalen Ramsey and it was Marshawn Lattimore. Those were your 2 iconic corners this year, and I thought they both deserved to have a spot in there. Jalen Ramsey got his spot, but the average NFL fan does. I don't know how much they look into the second and the third teams of the NFL All-Pro. So I think that not having Marshawn Lattimore on the first team was kind of a disservice to him and how great he's been this year. But do you know what's not a disservice, Tom? Again, we always bring this up on our shows, how amazing the Game Time app is. Tom, you can go to chatsports.com/tickets. You can get the best ticketing app anywhere on the internet. Not even close. Yeah. Not even close. I've been using this app for years.
I use it for a Dallas Stars game, and I always like to go see. No, they lost to the Columbus Blue Jackets. I wanted to see what the difference was between like the games app and what they were selling down at the field with the scalpers. It was $20 for my ticket. It was $50 at the lowest price for the scalpers.
Yeah.
So Game
Fun
Time
fact,
is the way to go there.
Don't use scalpers. Use the Game Time app. That's chatsports.com/tickets or gametime.co, not .com, .co. Tom, it is time for our rumors roundup, and we're doing something a little funny. I don't know if the people noticed when we were doing our one to start the show. We are not using Dallas Cowboy stars. We are not using Jim Harbaugh heads like we use in the Michigan show. No, we are using Downey heads. So let's explain what we're going on before we get into our rumors.
All right,
Tom,
so zero Downey heads means what we're talking about is fake news. It's totally inaccurate. Do not pay any attention to it. 1 Downey head means there is a small shred of truth. Every lie is based on a kernel of truth. There's some truth to this, but it's not really accurate. 2 Downey heads means the people are talking. It's very firmly in the rumor category, has not been verified yet. 3 means it's pretty likely, like this is going to end up happening, but we're not quite there to the full-on, it's a done deal quite yet. And 4 Downey heads, that's right, it's a fact.
All right, it's a fact. We'll go with that one. And Tom, let's start with our first rumor. Matt Patricia as the Giants head coach. Tom, I don't know, do I have to run to New York and scream at the Giants to sign Josh McDaniels? But they're not. Apparently, they want Matt Patricia.
There's 2 different kind of ways, I think, to kind of go about approaching this. So there are a couple different reports out there. The first one is from Michael Lombardi and Peter King that basically say he's got the Lions job if he wants it. Like, Detroit wants to hire him. If he accepts, it'll be a done deal. But He's waiting on the Giants to see what New York does because he would like to get the Giants' job.
The Detroit Lions are about to get cucked by the New York Giants. The Detroit Lions are going to get cucked by the Giants. You cannot be an NFL franchise and wait to hire a coach until another team wants to hire him.
But the reason we're only going with two Harbaugh heads is because the New York Daily News reported that all signs point to Patricia being the hire, and then in the article, they didn't list what any of the signs were. They just said it's going to happen. They didn't cite any source. They just said it's going to be two Harbaugh heads. Two Downey heads, excuse me there. So, I don't really get it. So I thought it was very strange on the New York Daily News. So we're giving it two Downey heads here because my expectation is that Patricia would like the Giants' job.
Yes.
But the Giants have not made their decision yet.
No.
So he is going to wait. Once the Giants make their decision, Patricia will then take the Lions' job if he doesn't get this one.
Let's stay on the
two Downey heads. People are talking.
Let's stay on the Giants job because I think this is the number one coaching gig open right now in the NFL. We have Nick Saban apparently covets the Giants job. So Tom, here are the people that have been connected to the Giants job so far. Right, you got Josh McDaniels, Matt Patricia. All right, cool. You got Steve Wilkes as well, the Panthers defensive coordinator. Mike Shula got fired. Oh, you also have Bill Belichick. And also Nick Saban. I'm surprised they weren't thrown in with the groomers as well. Maybe Vince Lombardi's going to come back from the dead and be the Giants head coach. I give up. Who's going to be the Giants head coach?
All right,
I give up.
So we're giving this one Downey head.
Saban.
Here's the rumor itself. Bruce Arians, the former Cardinals coach, said that he thinks Nick Saban covets the Giants job. Arians said it would not surprise me, and there's a job he covets that happens to be open, and he says it's because they're the New York Giants. That's what's going on right there. So, look, I do not buy this because, and Arians kind of mentions this too when he was talking about it, he has a dynasty right now at Alabama. So it's one Downey head right now because why would he leave? He has a fantastic job right now, and he has a bunch of true freshmen playing. I will be stunned if Saban leaves to go to the New York Football Giants.
You have it one Downey head. Can I just straight up call this fake news?
No, because it came from a head coach, former NFL coach. That's why it's not.
Fine.
If this came from the New York Daily News, maybe we would give it fake news. We're giving it one Harbaugh.
By the way,
Downey head.
Please, people at home, should Nick Saban return to the NFL? Get your comments in. We want to know if you guys think Nick Saban should return to the NFL. Tom, before we move on from this, no, he should not.
Absolutely not.
Nick Saban should not return to the NFL. Stay at Alabama. Stay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let's move into our next rumor here. Norv Turner already hired by the Panthers as an offensive coordinator?
You see the lack of Downey heads there?
Where are my Downey heads?
Folks, this is fake news all the way through. So here's what happened, all right? Yahoo Sports, they did the aggregate article of a Sporting News article.
Oh, not Sporting.
That said, the Panthers have hired Norv Turner. But when you go to the actual Sporting News website, the article does not exist.
Oh.
What does exist is a very similar article that looks that's written exactly the same, except that the second paragraph says he is interviewing for the Panthers job.
God.
So here's what happened. Yahoo Sports went a little bit early up front there, and they published an outdated article, and they've never changed it. Yahoo Sports continues to push out fake news right now. Unbelievable what they're doing. They just haven't made the change, and I don't get why. It's baffling.
So who do you think the Panthers will end up at offensive coordinator, if not Norv Turner?
Oh, I think that they're going to hire Norv Turner, but they haven't done it yet. They have not officially hired Norv Turner quite yet. They have not made that news yet.
It is about as real as Nerve Turner being a real person. It is Norv Turner. There we go. Let's go into another thing that we probably could classify under fake news. Steve Sarkisian of the Seahawks as their offensive coordinator. Tom, they fired their offensive coordinator this morning. They also fired Tom Cable and Chris Richard, their offensive line coach and DB's coach.
The Richard one was weird because there was a report that he got fired. One said he kind of was asked to not come back.
Yeah,
or
so
he was allowed to leave.
Weird things, and now apparently the Seahawks want Steve Sarkisian. What?
So
this makes no sense to me.
Luckenforna, once again of CBS, are giving this just one Downey head because I think there is a small semblance of truth. Namely, Pete Carroll and Sarkisian know each other. They've coached together under USC, but right around the time before and after Luckenforna tweeted that and wrote the article on it, Dan Quinn, the Falcons head coach, comes out and says, this is not happening. There's zero chance of this happening.
By the way,
so one Downey head because I understand the connection, But I will be stunned if it does happen.
And
Jason.
I'll just say this. Jason La Canfora, at least in my book, you get 0 Downey heads. Jason La Canfora is fake news in my book. Thank you very much. One more thing before we move on from Steve Sarkisian. Tom, I don't know if we can really use the scale. How many Downey heads do you give him in his job performance this year? For,
-2.
-2 Downey heads. What is that?
-2 Downey heads.
-2 Downey heads stand for?
You hurt your team. That's what that means.
You'd be playing.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next one. Rich Gannon was widely considered to be the #1 target for the Raiders quarterbacks coach. Obviously, was the QB with John Gruden when he was with the Raiders originally. Tom, you have this at 4 Downey heads. You know that's right. He will not be the Raiders quarterbacks coach.
So what happened was everyone and their brother kind of thought that Gannon was going to go be the Raiders quarterbacks coach. I think Gruden thought that. Gannon himself thought that. Like, it was pretty much a done deal. Like, Gruden was like, yeah, you can come be my quarterback's coach. Gannon accepted it kind of years ago. That Gruden would often talk about, like, hey, if I ever go coach again, you'll be my quarterback's coach. He said, sure. So Gannon on Tuesday was flying out to the Gruden press conference. On the flight, he's like, oh, you know what? I actually don't want to do that. And he more or less said that he didn't think he could match his energy and the time commitment that Gruden was going to demand of him.
Oh, my God. You know what that stands
Rich
for,
Gannon
right?
went total beta and backed out.
That stands for, I'm kind of happy being lazy in the announcer's booth. I don't want to work 24/7 as a quarterback's coach.
Yeah, that's what it is. So Gannon is not going to be the quarterback's coach. Keep an eye on Pep Hamilton. He could be an option there if the Raiders want to go out and get somebody else. Greg Olson's going to be the OC. But Gannon, 4 Downey heads, because you know that's right, Harris. He is not going to be the quarterback's coach.
Rich Gannon, 4 Downey heads, not going to be the Raiders head coach. Tom, I think our next rumor might be the most interesting rumor that we have on the show today. John Harbaugh is in danger of losing his job next year. I want to break this one down because, I think this is the most fascinating of our rumors. Nick Saban go to the Giants is not. John Harbaugh maybe getting fired by the Ravens would be a huge change for that franchise because they've kind of staked a lot on him. He's been their coach now for a decade. They won a Super Bowl under him. They've been a competitive franchise for a long time with him. And we have Jason La Canfora on the top right.
Yep.
How is this real? Is this fake?
So I'm giving this 2 Downey heads means the people are talking because this is not the first time I've heard this before.
Okay.
I have heard the Ravens could try to move on for Harbaugh for really the past year and a half now.
I heard it going into this year if they didn't do well.
And they missed the playoffs again. And here's what Baltimore's at right now. They haven't made the playoffs the past couple of years. And Jason was kind of more speculating than I think he was reporting, but his report was like it kind of seems like a lame duck situation. They went internal. They kept everyone. They didn't really go out and get a big name splashy hire like a Chuck Pagano to come be their DC, even though they have the ties there. And that's where you kind of get the lame duck scenario there. I actually do think that this could make a little bit of sense if they miss the playoffs again next year. Maybe you see Baltimore make a change. With that said, I would not like it. I think letting go of John Harbaugh would be a big mistake for Baltimore.
Agreed.
Because I think if maybe you look at Ozzie Newsome instead, as much as I love Ozzie Newsome as a GM, they have not done a good job of building the offense. The defense has been great because they've spent all of their picks there.
I think the other thing with John Harbaugh that you really need to look into, A, if you do fire him, who's going to be a better fit on that team than him? B, are you actually going to find a better head coach than John Harbaugh to coach the Baltimore Ravens? Like, at that point, you just have to kind of do, a pros and cons. I feel like what you lose in firing him, you will not be able to gain by hiring anyone else unless it's literally a Bill Belichick or just like a crazy – he's probably one of the 10 best head coaches in football.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the reason you don't want to do it is because if you were to ask other teams who maybe need a head coach, you can go to the Browns or the Bengals or the Cowboys and say, hey, would you want to hire John Harbaugh as head coach? The answer would be, oh, yeah, give me him. Give me him. That's why you don't fire him.
There's probably only like 6, maybe 7 NFL teams that wouldn't hire him as a head coach almost instantly.
Unless they were like, oh, we want to keep our stability. Tampa Bay.
He would totally John Gruden to someone Jack Del Rio if a team really wanted to, taking someone's job, by the way.
So just monitor this one kind of as we go forward next year. He's safe for this year, but I've heard quite a bit of buzz around that. I don't think it'd be a good decision, but 2 Downey heads, the people are talking, so just kind of monitor it.
So let's bring up a reaction poll here. Should the Ravens fire John Harbaugh? Give me a heart for no. Give me a wow face for if they miss the playoffs again. Give me a laughing face, yes, so my team can hire him. Or an angry face Yes, I like that, Tom. Which one do you have?
I'm going with the ha-ha face. I already talked to my dad about this. And Bengals fans would love to get John Harbaugh. Cowboys fans would love to get John Harbaugh. It'd be a great hire for them. So I think the ha-ha one is the right one, unless you're a Baltimore fan, because then you got to be throwing up that love.
I think if you're doing a wow face, I'm going to throw up a wow face here because if they miss the playoffs again, they probably should fire him. But that doesn't, I don't think they should, but I know the Ravens will. I'll put it that way. If they miss the playoffs again, they will, because that's kind of the weird trend that we have in the NFL, that it's all about what have you done for me lately, especially with NFL coaches. It's not necessarily what I agree with, but at the same time, I'm not the GM. I'm not Ozzie Newsome, as much as I wish I could be. One more time, get those reactions in. That is Tom Downey. I am Harris Rubenstein. We just went through our latest NFL rumors. We are now going to get into ranking the rest of the quarterbacks left in the playoffs. Tom, I previewed it at the start of the show. I still cannot. Blake Bortles has a playoff win.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, my God.
He was a beautiful 12 of 23 for 87 yards and a TD against the Bills. He was great. He had 88 yards on the ground, right?
88
He had more rushing yards than he had passing yards.
So we are ranking the playoff quarterbacks, and we have him at number 8 out of 8.
How great is this? How great?
Is it great?
He was.
But is it really great?
We kid. He was awful in this game. Tyrod Taylor was pretty bad too. I can't think of a playoff game that had just worse overall quarterback play than what we saw from Blake Bortles and Tyrod Taylor. Blake Bortles couldn't hit a screen pass in this game. I just don't. It was just so bad the way that he played. I just have a tough time understanding here. What did you make of the way that Bortles played?
I looked at it like this, that he knew going into this game, he had a lot of confidence to start the game. But with about 2 minutes left in the second quarter, there's a video of him going, "What the bleep am I doing?" And from that point on, he just completely gave up, and he continued to just run the ball like nobody's business. He's a good runner, by the way. He's a decent athlete. 88 yards rushing for Blake Bortles was actually kind of the difference in that football game, which is kind of crazy. He made a lot of really important first downs down the stretch. I have this on my Twitter account because it's my header. In the year 2018, maybe one of the 5 worst quarterbacks in the past 5 years, Blake Bortles has a playoff win.
He did it.
This is like Drew Stanton winning a playoff game a couple years ago. Well, he didn't do it, but if he did, that's what this would have been like.
Fair. That's fair.
I can't even believe it. We need to move on from this later before I lose my mind. Let's go to Nick Foles at number 7. Tom, this one makes a lot of sense. He's not very good. They've built the offense around Carson Wentz. Fun fact of the day, Nick Foles is not Carson Wentz. Are they just going to get wiped off the field by the Falcons because he's not good?
I am genuinely concerned about that. Now, Foles looked very solid against the New York Giants, but his last 2 games against the Raiders and the Dallas Cowboys, Nick Foles has not looked like a competent quarterback. He was 23 of 49 for 202 yards, a TD, and a couple of picks.
And not to throw a ton of shade at the Raiders and the Cowboys, but their secondaries are not. Especially the Raiders.
The Raiders' defense is not good. It got better as you went on, but it was not a good defense for pretty much the entire season. And the Cowboys' secondary is nothing to write home about either. And now Nick Foles did come out early in that game, but Nate Sudfeld looked better than Nick Foles did. So I am very curious to see if my Eagles fans friends are in the comments section, because when Nick Foles first went down, I apparently had the hot take of saying that he was a downgrade from Carson Wentz. Huh. And Eagles fans in the comment section here on that show said there's no difference.
Whoa there,
We've seen, we'll call it 2.5 games. We can all agree that Nick Foles is nowhere near Carson Wentz,
Are you sure?
I am 100% sure. So I have genuine fears about Nick Foles and this Eagles team, which is unfortunate for Philadelphia because they had Carson Wentz. He'd probably be number 1 on this list, and the Eagles would be at least the number 2 team in the power rankings for the playoff teams. Instead, they've got Nick Foles, and I got real concerns about them being able to win, and that's what concerns me.
Let's move into number 6, and let's move into a guy who did not have a great season, Tom, but if we're being honest, I honestly think that he played his best game of the season in that playoff game. He wasn't amazing, but they won because of him. He dominated. Well, not dominated. Again, they didn't dominate by any means, but he was the reason they won in the second half, down 21-3, and he just turned it on.
I think that there's a distinct notice in the way the Titans had played this game. And then when they were having Mike Clark call the plays, and then allegedly what happened when Marcus Mariota took over calling the plays. Or ESPN reported that Mariota just said, you know what, after the first quarter, I got this. I'm going to run a bunch of no huddle, and it worked wonders. And I think that's indicative of the Titans' lack of offensive staff. So I think that Mariota right now is not as good anywhere near as he should be because he just hasn't played under the right coaching staff. So he's ahead of a guy like Nick Foles and a guy like Blake Bortles. I think Mariota has a much higher ceiling than those guys, but the play on the field right now is not up to that level. And I think really you get to these three guys here, and I think right after that there is a big, big difference between those three.
One thing, though, that I will say, that receiving touchdown that he got will forever live inside of NFL lore, as because we've seen crazy stuff, like, you know, we've seen Drew Brees like have a ball batted back into him and he tried to catch it, just totally dropped it. No, Marcus Mariota had the wherewithal to pluck a tipped ball out of the air and then dive for the pylon. Not only was that a funny play, that was an incredible play by Marcus Mariota to score that touchdown. I will forever be stunned that a quarterback can, A, be allowed to do that, and B, that he actually did it. Let's get into number 5, Case Keenum, the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. Tom, he had a career year. I don't even think you can beat around the bush.
Without a doubt.
Best season of his career by far. Finally put it all together at his kind of older age, 28, 29. Not exactly when you see a quarterback hit their stride, but he saved their season.
He was a huge factor then. He's 29, and it was very impressive. Keenum looked like a different quarterback this year. Maybe that's a what are you doing, Jeff Fisher type deal.
Yeah.
Like I think that's kind of the factor that he was much, much better than I actually thought he was going to be all year long. And there have been some ups and downs for Keenum. He hasn't always been the perfect quarterback, but he has been enough for the Vikings to win games, and I have been impressed by him, and I've been pleasantly surprised. With that said, he is still 5 for me, Harris, because when you look at the other guys on this list, I would feel so much better about Minnesota winning a Super Bowl if they had one of the other guys than if they had Case Keenum.
I will say this, though, 15 games this year that he ended up playing, you know, was pretty stunning to me. On the road this year, Tom, 14 touchdowns to 5 picks on the road.
It's very impressive. It's very impressive.
Super impressive for me. I think it's fantastic.
That's called composure.
It is. Vikings have the Saints coming up this week in TD Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let's move on to number 4 with Matt Ryan. And Tom, this will kind of launch us into the first big question of this segment. So with Matt Ryan, we have, you know, he did not have as good of a year last year. Only 20 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. He looked decent against the Rams last week, but not a ton of yardage. But he does have a lot of playoff experience.
I also completely trust Matt Ryan in a significant way more than I trust Case Keenum. And look, we all knew that Matt Ryan and the Falcons' offense in general was not going to be as good as it was last year. There was no way they went from a historically unprecedented, really, efficiency level with a new coordinator and doing it at the same level. And now Matt Ryan has not been quite as good, but he had a rough game against the Saints in week 14. But he hasn't quite as many touchdowns as he's had in the past. But I think the yards are still solid. The accuracy is still there. So I still like Matt Ryan a lot. He is not the MVP, Matt Ryan. That's why he's down at the 4th spot. But I think, actually, Harris, I think there's a pretty big difference here between the 5th spot and the 4th spot. I think there is a big separation.
So we have a reaction poll on there for everyone. Which QB would you rather have right now? Give me a heart for Case Keenum or a thumbs up for Matt Ryan. The obvious answer, I think, is Matt Ryan, just because, obviously, you know, has a playoff history, made it to the Super Bowl last year, still had a good year. But if you're asking me what QB I'd rather have right now, I think it's a legitimate argument that it could be Case Keenum. It's not like Matt Ryan's had a good year this year. It's not like that offense has been ticking and rolling. You know, you can say whatever you want about Steve Sarkisian, but eventually at some point you do have to point fingers at the quarterback. He just hasn't gotten the ball to Julio Jones this year in the red zone.
And I think that's part of the offense, and that's where I have my issues with Steve Sarkisian this year. But in the end, the way I approach this, Harris, is I'm going to look at, okay, you know, who do I want my quarterback to be at the start of the game? Like, who gives me the best chance to win? I think it's Matt Ryan. Who do I want with the ball in their hands when my team's down 5 with 1:45 left and the ball is at my own 35-yard line? It is, without a doubt, Matt Ryan. So Matt Ryan is the easy choice here for me, although I know you seem to be a bigger fan of Case Keenum compared to Matt Ryan, Harris.
It's not so much that I like Case Keenum more than Matt Ryan. I just think that Matt Ryan obviously hit his last year was peak Matt Ryan. You are never going to get a better version of Matt Ryan than you did last year. Whereas this year with Case Keenum, this is the best version of Case Keenum you're going to get. So it's an interesting
And
contrast.
to me, this version of Case Keenum is still not as good as Matt Ryan.
That's fair. All right, let's move into number 3. We have Ben Roethlisberger sitting there, had a good year, way better second half than he did in the first half. The first
Rough
half,
start.
He looked horrible. This week we get to see him against the Jaguars, a team that he threw 5 interceptions against in one game, so obviously his worst game of the year. What do you make of him going to the playoffs? Obviously, a Hall of Fame quarterback for sure.
No.
Super Bowls, the whole to-do, competitive games on the road and at home. Different Big Ben this year, though.
The last month or so, he's really kind of settled into a groove. He lit up the Ravens defense. He had a good game against the Patriots, and really could have won that game. Maybe he would have been even a little bit higher on this list. But I like Big Ben a lot. I think there's a very clear big 3 in terms of the playoff quarterbacks left. But that Jaguars game and a couple other games, kind of in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, is Big Ben going to have one of those bad Big Ben games when he kind of blows up and falls apart? So that's what concerns me the most about Big Ben. That's why he's at number 3.
Before we move on to number 2, I have to ask you this question. We should have maybe had this in the rumors report. Do you really believe that Antonio Brown is 100%?
He is not 100%. There's no way. But he is. I do think he's going to play.
I also will say this, that Antonio Brown's like 80% is probably better than like 90% of anyone else's 100%.
Maybe 95%.
Let's get into Drew Brees at number 2. Tom, he's just been spectacular this year. Now it's like 4 of the 5 highest completion percentage seasons in NFL history, 72% this year. Touchdowns weren't really there. Yards were as good as ever. 8 interceptions. First ballot Hall of Famer. He's amazing.
Look, if Drew Brees had 30 touchdown passes this year, he would probably be the MVP favorite. And if he had just had an extra touchdown every other game. Instead, with the way the Saints offense ran, they ran the ball a little bit more, and they had wild success this year. It's really the first time in quite a while we've had this level of offensive ground ability. And that's a credit to, I think, in part, Drew Brees. And without Drew Brees, they definitely don't have the same level of ground game. And Brees, I will trust him no matter what at this point. The touchdowns haven't been there, which, to be fair, but if in the NFC, without a doubt, Drew Brees is the best quarterback left. I mean, it's not even close right now. He is as accurate as ever. He hasn't lost really the touch as far as I'm concerned. I love Drew Brees. And if the offensive line can just survive amidst the injuries, and same with the defensive line, maybe Brees can get back to the Super Bowl.
So if the people at home have a process of elimination ability to them, they could probably know who our number 1 quarterback is going to be. It is, in fact, Tom Brady, the 40-year-old, another great season, 32 touchdowns to 8 picks. Didn't have a great December, kind of slowed down, but that bye week, I'm sure, is going to do a lot of help. But we do have a lot of noise around the team going into this playoff.
I think it's the December play that kind of has me concerned, where maybe a guy like a Big Ben is heating up a little bit. Same with maybe a Drew Brees. Tom Brady kind of cooled off in the last month or so of the year. He had 6 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. That's not the Tom Brady we've become accustomed to. We're accustomed to more of the overall regular season Tom Brady. 66, 67%, 4,000 to 5,000 yards, 32 TDs, just 8 interceptions. So I do have some concerns about Tom Brady. But I think of the quarterbacks left, the likely MVP winner deserves to be number 1.
For me, it kind of comes down to if you've one game to win and you need to pick a quarterback this year.
Healthy Aaron Rodgers. Ooh, not in the playoffs.
Not a thing that happened.
Thanks, Brett Hundley.
You're probably going to take Tom Brady on that list. Tom, before we head out, we should remind the people at home that they need to go download the Game Time app. Head to chatsports.com/tickets to get up to 60% off your last-minute ticket needs. Tom, you could wait till literally a second before tip-off, and the prices are still going to be going down.
Yeah, that's definitely the way to do it there, is to kind of wait till, maybe you check in at the half hour, the 20-minute mark, somewhere in that range. The tickets are going to be a lot cheaper than if you look at like a few days before. Wait till late. That's how you'll save the most money.
Head to chatsports.com/tickets for all your ticketing needs. That is Tom Downey, and I am Harris Rumsey. We've had a great time with you today. Don't forget, we will be looping the show, so if you missed any of our wonderful NFL rumors and our new Downey heads, if you missed our playoff quarterback rankings, or even, our AP All-Pro list that we present to you guys, the show will be looping around a little bit. So for Tom Downey, I'm Harris Rubenstein. We'll see you guys next time.